Alright, what is everybody? Pretender here, back with another Orc Knights video. Yes sir, look at text out there. Nah, I'm playing. We're back with another Honkai Star guide, and today I'm going to be talking about the best partners and characters for Acheron. I do have a guide already going more in depth, and if Acheron would be worth it for you, where I do kind of cover over her E0S0, E0S1, E2S0, and E2S1. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. This video will be morely tailored towards just going over her best partners and potential partners she could have on the team, opening some general creativity for team building. Obviously there will be portions where I do talk about characters more tailored towards E2, but in the beginning I'm mainly going over the best characters for E0, S1, and so on. Before I get to the video, if you guys could drop a sub and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with other types of guides, Star news, summons, showcases, all that kind of stuff, would be greatly appreciated. And let's get straight into the video. So starting off, we should probably talk about what the biggest deal with Acheron is. So as we do know, Acheron has a ability where she does gain more damage based on more nihility teammates, and if you have 1, you get 115% damage dealt boost, and if you have 2, that becomes 160. This has raised a lot of concerns due to her restrictions, and so I'm going to be starting off with the best nihility teammates to pair her with. So as Acheron is not a dot-based nihility character, the best way you can go about running her with their teams would be characters such as Silverwolf. Silverwolf is a nihility debuffer and will most likely be the best partner for Acheron. This is due to the fact that she, 1, is nihility, filling that role, 2, isn't really the beneficial to the dot team. She isn't a dot character, she's a debuffer, but mainly that she inflicts so many debuffs that do benefit Acheron, because Acheron is a character where you want to be constantly inflicting debuffs to gain charges for her ultimate, and Silverwolf does just that. As we do see, we can just say from the talent alone, she can create 3 types of bugs: reduce attack by 10%, reduce defense by 8%, and reduce speed by 6%. So every time you attack, you have a 72% base chance to inflict a random bug for every 3 turns. So that is a debuff right there. Sadly, you cannot pair that with the weakness addition or the defense ultimate, but you can do one and the other, because Acheron does have it to where you can only gain 1 ult stack per action. So using something like a wealth ult where you inflict imprisonment and vulnerability, that would not give you 2, that would give you 1. So a way you would do it is you would use a basic attack skill, whatever, you would apply that debuff, and then you would apply the ultimate, reducing their defense, and you would get 2 stacks because you started the first action inflicting one of these, or one of these, and then followed by that, you'd be doing another action with the ultimate for the defense lower, and overall, that is how you'd go about it, getting you 2 stacks in the process for Acheron's ult. So Silverwolf will be the best one due to the fact that she can mainly very much reduce the enemy's res, can inflict weakness on the characters, and also can reduce defense. As we do see, there's a 100% base chance to reduce all type res of the enemy by 10% for 2 turns. Again, the weakness implementation that she can do, so if they're not weak to lightning, there's a chance you might add it, so that's another bonus to have, but mainly the fact that she can reduce defense thanks to her ultimate and the talent, which also can reduce the enemy's speed, helping even more in the process. Not only that, with their bonus ability, you can make them take even more by reducing their all-type res by an additional 3% if they have 3 or more debuffs. And also it makes it easier when you do inflict weakness break with Silverwolf. You have a 65% chance of inflicting a random bug on the enemy that you inflict that with, and you also get a bug duration extend for 1 turn. Overall, Silverwolf being able to debuff a bunch, and just being able to help your Silverwolf in general with the defense lowers, res lowers, debuff applying, all that kind of stuff. She has it all and will definitely be her best partner. Another very good option is going to be Pela. Pela with mainly her E4. This is when she does get the chance to debuff with their skill. As you see, when skill is used, there's 100% base chance to reduce the enemy's ice res by 12% for 2 turns. So if you do have her E4, you do get a bonus with the skill, because the skill alone doesn't inflict a debuff, but it all very much does help Acheron do more damage, because she can also inflict expose on all enemies, reducing their defense by 40% for 2 turns. So just like Silverwolf, as I mentioned, mainly the defense lowering, making them take more damage from Acheron's attacks. Obviously, you want your Acheron to do the most damage as possible, and since you can't really do it by means of using harmony buffers overall, since you will mainly be running nihility debuffer teammates, the best thing you can do to increase your Acheron's damage is to take teammates that can lower their defense. And Pela and Silverwolf fill that role perfectly. With this, you can also run the Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat, because when you do that, and you have this on your Pela, when you hit an enemy and they're not ensnared, there's a 60% base chance to ensnare the hit enemy. And if they are ensnared, they have their defense reduced by 12%. So this also counts as a debuff, which you could do with the skill if you do not have E4 Pela. So this is a very nice option to have if you do not have an E4 payload. And obviously at R5, that base chance becomes 100 and you can decrease their defense by 16%. So using this with your Pela is a very nice option, and overall Pela will be the second best option you can use. Following and the last nihility debuffer role just based off debuffs is the GOAT Welt. So Welt does do a few things to inflict weakness with this skill. He is AoE with this because it is bounce. And when you hit an enemy, there is a 75% base chance to reduce the enemy speed by 10% for 2 turns. So this counts as a debuff helping Acheron. And making your enemies have less speed would mean that they won't be able to attack as much. They won't be able to attack as much means your team is most likely to stay alive because you don't have to deal with getting attacked. But mainly moving down to his ult here, he has a 100% base chance for enemies hit by this ability to be imprisoned for 1 turn. And that does indeed count as a debuff. With imprisoned enemies, they have their actions delayed by 40% and speed reduced by 10%. Not only that, but with Welt's bonus ability, when you use the ultimate, there's also 100% base chance to increase the damage received by targets by 12% for 2 turns, also known as vulnerability. So as I did mention previously, you can't combine the ultimate with its imprisonment and all that stuff. With this, it won't count as 2 because Acheron only allows for 1 charge per action, and using the ult, inflicting both of these would count as 1 per action, so you only gain 1 charge, but with them having vulnerability now, they will take increased damage. And obviously, your Acheron would like them to take increased damage because now you can go crazy with Acheron's ultimate. And there are some things where you can build well as some sort of sustained character, pretty much just not letting the enemy attack you. So your Acheron just can continuously attack while your Welt is imprisoning and slowing them. Obviously, I'm not going to go too into depth of this because I don't know too much of it myself. And I do want to definitely test it myself before I make any final decisions on the sustained Welt role. Overall, not only having Welt as being your debuffer on the team for your Acheron to gain stacks, making her do more damage, Welt himself does do a pretty good amount of damage. His skill hits pretty hard, his ultimate hits pretty hard, making them vulnerable, and when they are slowed, he'll do additional damage with his talent. So Welt, also being a sub DPS on the team, is a very nice option. Now shying away from a pure debuffer nihility role, another really viable option is going to be Gungnaifen. Not only does she really just inflict burn on the enemy, which counts as a debuff giving Acheron a charge, it is mainly due to her Fire Kiss. While inflicted with Fire Kiss, the enemy receives 7% increased damage, lasting for 3 turns and can stack up to 3 times. So with 3 stacks, they will take 21% increased damage. Obviously, that does apply to your Acheron doing damage to them. If you do have Fire Kiss fully stacked, your Acheron deals 20% increased damage from Gungnifen's Fire Kiss. And if you do have a E6 Gungnaifen, that increases by 1. So now you have a maximum of 4 stacks of Fire Kiss, becoming a maximum of 28% increased damage. This also does apply, let's say you're running something in Memory of Chaos or Pure Fiction, if you're not already using Gungnaifen on a dot team, and I will be covering the dot units in a little bit. But if you're not using Gungnaifen in your team currently for a dot team, she is a really good option with Acheron. Obviously, not as good as Silverwolf, Pela, or Welt, but she is definitely a close option you can use. Now talking about dot characters such as Kafka and mainly Black Swan. The reason I am sort of against using dot characters with Acheron is because sure, your damage output can be really good with something like Acheron, Black Swan, Kafka, and Sustain Unit. Yes, but I honestly think you'd be better off running these dot characters on their own separate team, where you could run a support unit instead, because on that team you are going to very much need a sustained character. So your last slot cannot be filled with a harmony buffer because you will most likely die in harder content. The dot stuff that is applied by these characters such as Kafka's Shock and what Black Swan can apply, such as the reducing defense, is going to be really helpful. But again, I definitely would recommend running these guys on their own separate team, which is why I don't really want to talk about them too much. Although if you really do not have another option, I think the better option would be Kafka out of the two, due to the fact that her skill does have a 100% base chance of reducing the defense of the target enemy and adjusting targets by 20%, lasting for 3 turns. Due to the defense lower, I think she is a lot better for Acheron. But again, I still would apply, mainly talking about that I would recommend only using dot characters if you are not already having a team for them, because Kafka and Black Swan will definitely shine on their own team a lot more, because the dot team itself is already very powerful and you'd probably want to be running something like those two on the separate team with someone like Ruan Mei, and then a sustained character to have them to their fullest potential. And now shying away from the nihility debuffer roles, this will mainly be going over the harmony buffers, so mainly for people that are running E2 Acheron. Because for the most part, if you are running an E0 Acheron, you are going to be having Acheron herself with 2 nihility debuffers, and the last slot needs to be a sustained character so you don't end up dying. But with E2, she does reduce the nihility teammate requirement by 1, so you only need 1. So you'd have Acheron, nihility debuffer, a sustained character, and your last slot is open to taking a supporter. And a very fantastic option, very good on every team, is going to be Ruan Mei. Don't really have to go into detail about her. She increases damage, weakness break efficiency, increases speed, she increases all allies res pen by 25% in her ultimate, she can extend the weakness break durations She increases break effect. She does so much. Scaling off break effect, giving her allies even more damage from her bonus ability. She just does it all. So Ruan Mei would be a fantastic option for E2 Acheron runners. Another very good option is going to be Sparkle, because she also gives a bunch of crit damage, which Acheron will be wanting to do more damage with, and also does increase damage dealt. And Sparkle does also give a bunch of skill points, and Acheron is going to be pretty skill hungry because she will always want to be getting as much charges even on her turn, and the only thing that gives her that is going to be skill. That is assuming you don't have her light cone, but even if you do have her light cone, you're gonna be wanting to spam her skill due to the fact that if you do use a skill with the light cone and you're giving someone the debuff that doesn't already have it, you will be getting 2 charges due to the fact that the skill itself gives you 1 charge, and then it doesn't count as giving someone a debuff for that action. So the light cone would fill that portion, and so you'd get a total of 2 rather than 1 if you do have a light cone. So overall, the team will be skill point hungry, and Sparkle is a very good option due to the fact that, again, she gives a bunch of crit damage. She gives you a 50% action forward if you select Acheron, which you will mainly be doing. Her ultimate gives you damage dealt. Talent further extends it. You overcap your skill points and you recover a bunch of skill points. Sparkle overall will be a fantastic option, also giving you a 15% attack boost for free, being overall easy to manage. And so Sparkle is another very good option. Bronya will also be another really good option because she gives a whole extra turn to the ally you select, increasing their damage. All increases their crit damage. Though if you are running Bronya, the skill points might be a little more difficult to manage. So if skill points become an issue, you might want to sub out Bronya for someone like Sparkle or Ruan Mei, which is why I prefer these two over Bronya for this team. Sure, having the extra attack, letting your Acheron attack twice is very nice, but if you don't have any skill points, what can you really do about it? As for the sustains are just practically anyone to keep your team alive, and so the best option overall is going to be Fu Xuan, due to the fact that she does give the team some survivability with the max HP, and also gives everyone 12% crit rate. 12% crit rate for your Acheron will be really nice. Obviously, with more crit rate, the more chances you have to crit. The more you crit, the better. Her also being able to heal a bit from her ult, also being able to direct the damage towards her mainly. Overall, she's going to be a fantastic option. I'm also not going to be talking about the Universal Market Trailblazer or the Universal Market Shepherd because I'm gonna be honest, I don't see it. I don't see a point. I get the debuffs and making the burns, but I honestly just would not do that. It's just such a waste in my opinion. I'd much rather just take an actual sustained character and make sure I'm not the one ending up dying in that battle. And yeah, the other two sustained options that would be really good will obviously be Luocha and Huohuo. Mainly Huohuo because the energy regeneration from her ult will sadly be useless because Acheron does not use the regular energy bar, but this will help with your other characters, so it's still not useless overall. But the 40% attack up for your entire team is going to be really, really good. And so having that will be really nice. You have your cleanse, your heal, all that. Luocha would be better if you need to heal more, because Luocha does overall heal more, but he doesn't give you attack stats and all that. So overall, these two will just be the best healers to run. Again, overall sustain, I would recommend Fu Xuan overall just because of the crit rate bonus and what else she can do. And so yeah, to reiterate, I think the best Nihility role debuffers will be Silver Wolf for number 1, Halo for number 2, Waltz for number 3, and moving on to like a hybrid dot or debuffer role, Bonifin would be another very good option at 4. And again, Black Swan and Kafka, I said what I said, but they would be an option you can use if you really need it. And for E2 users, Ruan Mei and Sparkle, I honestly think just go with what you prefer. I think they're both fantastic, equally as good for this team. Bronya coming in short from them just because the skill points issue. Best sustain would be Fu Xuan just because of what I said she does. And tied for the number 2 would be Huohuo and Luocha. And so yeah, that is the video. Let me know about what you guys are thinking. Are you guys going for E2, E0S1, E0S0, just collection purposes? Let me know what you guys are doing. So I'm gonna get back to playing Arknights, but y'all have fun.